everyone, and welcome back to the one where we chat. So, quick update on what's been going on. I have had I'm building up my list of guests that are going to be coming on. I know that I promised you guys an episode weeks ago, but there's just been a bit of backlog with getting the guests on, fitting into their schedules, them fitting into my schedules and stuff like that. So what I thought I'd do is, instead of leaving yous waiting, I would just record an episode on my own. And I had a wee look through some of the podcasts that other people do, and had a wee look at what kind of thing that I would like to talk about. First, I was going to just do a Q&A and answer some questions. However, I've recorded it, I listened to it back, and I thought, you know, it's fine, but there wasn't really much of value in it, to be honest with you. It was all just really, you know, silly questions about me. We can do that at some point as well, for sure. But what I wanted to do with the podcast was really find a way and where I can talk about different topics which I find important. And I wanted it to be quite hard hitting. I wanted it to be quite real and raw. And I thought sitting doing a Q&A is just not, it just didn't feel right. So after a bit of backwards and forwards, a bit of debating whether or not I should talk about this or not, especially on my own, I've decided to go for it and step out my comfort zone, put my big girl pants on and talk about this, because last week was Eating Disorder Awareness Week, and it's something I just don't really talk about at all. I did kind of talk about it a little bit a few years back. I kind of mentioned it a few times here and there. Obviously, I'm quite open about like my sobriety. When I was diagnosed with complex PTSD, I was quite open about that as well, and mental health and anxiety, depression, all these kind of things I find quite easy to talk about now. I've talked about it so much. But when it comes to eating disorders, for some reason, I've always still had this block, a little bit of like shame, scared what people are going to think of me, scared how people are going to view me, scared what my family will think, because not all of them actually know about it. But yeah, so last week was Eating Disorder Awareness Week, and the eating disorders obviously come in lots of different types, but the main two that you probably hear of are anorexia and bulimia. So that's the main two, you know, when it's the eating disorder looks at losing weight. Obviously, as we know, eating disorders are not about losing weight. And then obviously you've got lots of other ones as well. So what I was affected with was bulimia. Now, I didn't actually know that I was bulimic for so long. I did not tell a soul, did not tell anybody. It would have been very hard for my friends and family to question me on it or to bring it up, as I was obviously eating. So I was sitting down at the dinner table with my mum and my brothers and everybody, and we would have our dinner, and I was eating our family meals. But then obviously I would go and do what people that are bulimic do. I'm not going to go into too much details about that, because I also know that there's younger people on here, and I don't want to influence anyone or give them any ideas. I've quite often, so this is another issue that I find when I try and speak about this, I've often had girls ask me how I done it, how did I start this, as if it's like, you know, a business investment, as if it's like, I don't know. Obviously, I always say, like, I would never like speak about it in that way. But the reason I wanted to speak about it is because I know that it affects so many people, not just women and men. It just affects so many people. Not necessarily bulimia and anorexia, don't get me wrong. Trust me, so many people, I would say like 80%, but I don't have the statistics. I really should have got them before this. But probably a large percent of people have issues with food, whether it be like they're fussy, they're picky, or, you know, they weigh their food. That is also not healthy, by the way. Well, people will probably debate that with me, but I'm yet to find someone to convince me that that's healthy, to weigh your food and obsess over like everything that goes in your mouth. I mean, fair enough if you're into sports and blah blah blah, of course, weigh your food, weigh your meals and stuff, but then also go and enjoy a cake, or I don't know. I feel like there's no right or wrong way to look at this. It's such a hard topic. Now, I always thought that my eating disorder started when I was 16, or yeah, 16. I lost a lot of weight when I was 16. I think, you know, it didn't happen, it happened fast, but not like the space of weeks. It was maybe, you know, it did happen sort of gradually throughout maybe a year or so. And yeah, I guess people didn't really think anything about it because, you know, I was 16, I was quite into how I looked, I was into like what I wore, my image basically. So I think a lot of people just thought, oh, she's just losing weight, you know, and that's fine. But that was obviously not what was happening. Now, at the time, like I said before, I wasn't aware. I just thought, I didn't even think this is normal. I just thought nothing about it. I thought absolutely nothing about what I was doing. I just thought, you know, yeah, I didn't think anything of it. I literally didn't think anything of it. And yeah, I just thought, do you understand what I mean? So I started, I guess I would say, I started to realise that it's a problem when now I should have also mentioned at the start, of course, that I am completely recovered from this. So the reason I'm feeling kind of able to talk about it now is because it does not affect me at all anymore. Sometimes it comes up a little bit where I feel like, in here, I feel like I need to, but, you know, I'm quite quick at just being like, no. And that only happens hardly ever. I don't want anyone to be concerned or worried or anything. I'm completely tickety-boo. I love my food, as you all know, and I'm always shoveling food in my mouth. And I go to the gym a lot and stuff, so that really helped me, by the way. Exercise is just key to recover. So yeah, I guess I realised that I had a bit of an issue when I started taking seizures. So I'd gotten quite skinny, but I was hiding it, and I was hiding it well. I don't want anyone to think or judge the people that were around me in my life at that time. I was hiding it well. I would eat in front of my family all the time. I wouldn't really eat in front of like my friends, but they didn't really think much of it. And I would never eat in front of my boyfriend at the time. He maybe brought it up twice to me. So one time he was like, I'll go downstairs and have a muffin because you need to eat more. And the second time that he ever brought it up with me was when he looked at me and went, "Why don't you eat?" And obviously that's not helpful either. So yeah, people weren't really aware, but I started taking seizures, and I was drinking a lot at the time as well. So I was drinking and I wasn't eating, and I started taking seizures. And to be honest, with the eating disorder, it's something that I put myself forward for counselling and therapy, as you do. And as it is in the UK, I got put on. With the eating disorder, it's something that I put myself forward for counselling and therapy, as you do. And as it is in the UK, I got tapped on a waiting list. I was on that waiting list for about 12 months or so. And so I was on the waiting list for therapy and counselling for lots of things. So it was to try and help me recover from this, to try and help me recover from PTSD, from anxiety, depression, alcoholism. Whereas I'd really only been focusing on the drinking and my mental health for so many years with professionals. With my eating, it was really just like a phase for me. It lasted maybe a few years, and then it kind of just stopped. I don't know. It was kind of like when I met Pete, to be honest. It kind of fizzled out, and then when I went to rehab when I was 20, it did come back for like a few months, and then it fizzled out again. And the only support I've ever really had with it is just talking to my brothers, who have been quite helpful, talking to Pete, and journaling. I literally just wrote, and that really, really helped me, to the point that I was on this waiting list. COVID hit, I got taken off this waiting list. They just took everybody off their waiting lists in the Shire, apparently. And when COVID was kind of done, they said, we can put you back on the waiting list. It'll be another maybe 12 to 14 months wait. And at that point, by then, I still am, I was just feeling good. I was feeling good about myself. I've done so much work on myself. I had like my own wee personal counsellor called Peter Kerr. And sometimes you just need someone to listen. Sometimes you don't need someone with a fancy degree or anything like that. You just need someone to listen to you. And when I say fancy degree, I'm not slagging it off, by the way. I almost studied psychology. I think it's amazing. But sometimes it's not what you need. It's not great for everybody. It's not great sometimes to bring it back up. I was literally listening to a Joe Rogan podcast last night with Pete. And he had on a woman called Abigail. I can't remember her surname. Anyway, this woman was amazing, and she's just written a book, and the book is called Bad Therapy, and she talks about how therapy isn't always a positive thing when it comes to kids, teenagers, young adults, stuff like that. I believe that therapy isn't always a positive thing in general, not even for fully grown adults. Sometimes I think once you feel like if you've had to wait and you feel like you've healed yourself and you feel like you've done the work and you feel like you're good, why do you need to go then sit in a room with a professional and dredge it all back up? So, I've never had any proper therapy or counselling about any of this stuff really, except from when I was young. I had therapy and counselling. I had it a wee bit when I was a teenager as well. These were like things that, the hospital would force you to do, or the GP would force you to do, stuff like that. And it can be very helpful. I'm not saying it's not, and I'm not saying don't go to therapy or don't get counselling. I'm just saying there's lots of different ways that you can go about this. There's also like so many charities and help organisations out there. And all I would say is, if you're in this situation right now, if you feel yourself struggling with food, if you feel like you've got an issue, you're not eating enough, you're eating and you're not holding the food, then you really, really, really need to get help in any way, whether it's self-help, whether it's professional help, whether it's friends or family. Speak to somebody and reach out, because my issue was that I wasn't speaking to anybody. And when I finally spoke to my brother, the first person I spoke to about it was Peter. Then I spoke to my big brother, and it was so interesting because I was like, I think I might have a bit of an eating disorder. And he just, not laughed at me, but he was just like, oh my God, Rach. He was like, you've had issues with food since you were a wee girl. And I was a bit confused, but then I started to remember, oh no, wait. It was always an ordeal in the hospital, them trying to get me to eat. And I think, to be honest, it was just all the medication I was on, and all the surgeries and all the pain, and I never wanted to really eat very much. And I remember it getting to a point where it was a bit of an issue, where they were like, she needs to eat more. And I remember, actually, I was next to the ward with the girls that had all the girls that had anorexia and eating disorders. They were all in the one room next to the room that we were in. And at this point, they would get me, I don't know if this was a good idea or not, but the hospital would get me to go and chat to them and like hang about with them a wee bit and stuff. I can't remember if they were like, this might be good for her, or I don't know, or maybe just like they just wanted me to make some wee pals. But I would sit and chat to them, and I always remember looking at them and thinking, oh, they're really skinny. I never looked at them and thought, oh, I want to be, so it's really crazy how eating disorders are just so, like, so, I just think I wanted to kind of touch on it. I might do some more episodes on this. I might get some of you people on. I would love to get a guy on to talk about this. I feel like it's always looked at as like an issue for women and girls, and it's not at all. It affects men just the same as it affects women. Maybe not quite the same amount of men are affected as women are affected, but this is what I'm saying. Sometimes there's no trigger, sometimes there are triggers. I feel like for me, maybe there was a few triggers, but nothing major that people would have like picked up on. Do you get what I mean? So I wanted to touch on that. I wanted to kind of be open and honest and, get it out, finally get it out, that this is something that's happened, that this is something that I have experience with, that this is something that I would like to raise awareness on. I don't want this happening to people. We need to talk about it more. It's not talked about at all, really. It's very, oh, hush, hush, hush. Let's not talk about these things. But so many young girls and boys are being affected, and they are lost, and they don't know what's happening with their bodies, and they're scared, and it's sad when you look at mental health in kids and stuff nowadays, and teenagers, and how they view themselves and how they view their bodies and how they feel about their bodies. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff happening at the moment in the world with all of this, and I just think it's important that they know that they're not alone, they're not strange, they're not crazy, they're not weird. Same with teenagers and adults and everybody affected by this. You're not on your own, you're not crazy, you're not strange, you're not sick beyond repair. It can get better, and you just need to talk about it. So I'm going to wrap it up there. I feel like I may be rambling on a little bit now, but I would love to have some of you guys on to chat about this. Please reach out to me if you'd like to come on to chat about this. I would be honoured to have people on to chat about this. Yeah, reach out. Love yous, and I'll see you guys for the next episode next Friday.